Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to go back to our old friend the Monster Manual as we continue Monster Week, Creature Features, AD&D Creature Features Week, and we're going to look at one of my absolute favorite from the Monster Manual, the Doppelganger. Doesn't seem so formidable until you start actually thinking about it. Number appearing 3 to 12. I've never done that. Armor class 5, 4 hit dice, 1 attack, 1 to 12 damage, surprise on a 1 through 4. Special defenses are C below. Magic resistance is C below. Intelligence is very, they're medium sized. These bipedal creatures are of mutable form, so that they're able to change shape into the likeness of any humanoid creature from 4 foot to 8 foot tall, which they observe. Having become the double for a person, they attempt to do away with that victim and assume its place. If unable to do this, the doppelganger will simply attack, counting on the confusion engendered to make it indistinguishable from the creature it is mimicking. Surprise means this works, so they have a 1 and 4 on a die 6 to make that work. Doppelgangers are able to ESP and imitate with 90% accuracy. They are subject to neither sleep nor charm spells. Despite only having 4 hit dice, they make their saving throws as if they're 10th level fighting men. And there's a note here. The doppelganger actually forms itself into the likeness of the creature and equipment of the imitated creature, as well as the physical features thereof. So, fair amount to unpack there. It seems pretty simple. Very short entry. You know, we're talking maybe 4.5, 5 inches on the page, and yet we've got a nice piece of artwork there. It's holding some kind of jewel in its hands, and yet what this can do is it can completely mess up the party. If you put a doppelganger in there, I've done this where you have 2 of them show back up. This is like Mystique in the first X-Men movie where she's imitating Wolverine. So 2 of them are standing there and each is saying, no, I'm the real one, I'm your friend. And the other's saying, that one's the imitation. What's the party to do? In the old days of D&D, very often somebody in the party who was neutral or maybe even evil would go ahead and just try to kill both. That was a fairly common thing at our table. But now that we're older and wiser, it can actually be a real problem and some great role-playing. You have the DM who has to role-play the doppelganger, and you have the player who has to role-play their character. That could be really interesting. One way one of my players came up with it was they said, okay, you're a doppelganger. Take off your breastplate. The one guy did, the other guy didn't. Since the doppelganger actually forms itself into the likeness of the clothing and equipment, I, as the DM, ruled that he couldn't just take off a piece of his chest, nor could he kind of imitate it while they were watching him that he had taken it off. Therefore, because I thought it was a cool idea and the player did some clear thinking on it, I went ahead and I awarded that by letting it work. I thought it was a really good idea. Another way, of course, to use a doppelganger is to have it, when the party's split up, have the doppelganger realize that and come in and infiltrate the party while the other one's absent. It says here that it has a 90% chance to duplicate the voice and the memories and everything. But what I like to do is I only give it 90% of the total stuff. So there's going to be some gaps in there. There's going to be, what's your mother's maiden name? I don't remember. Well, that's the 10% he didn't pick up. And a lot of times when I do that, when they're testing it for whatever reason in the game, I'll throw the dice. And if I roll a 91 to double aught, then he's unclear on it. But I'll almost always do at least one like that. I feel it's a little bit better role-playing opportunity for me as the NPC and, of course, for the players. Another great way to use doppelgangers is to have them imitate some NPC that's vital to your campaign. The king is missing, and now the king is back. Oh, look at that. Oh, the king's turned kind of cruel. Ooh, what happened there? Well, he's a doppelganger. And their alignment is neutral, but I generally will play doppelgangers as evil. That's a choice at my table. I realize that neutral is what their alignment is. There are also other forms of doppelganger I've seen in modules and articles throughout the years. And there's one version of the doppelganger that actually has to consume the creature it's going to duplicate. And they can eat it very quickly and make all gone with it. And then they're there as the new substitute. But of course, they're the doppelganger. I have used that kind. Both have their places. I've only ever used the consume one to consume an NPC and then replace it. But the version of the doppelganger that's just duplicating somebody as a shapeshifter versus the doppelganger that's eating someone and actually taking over their role. Both have great role-playing opportunities, and I have used the NPC version on both. But the one that eats the doppelganger, or the doppelganger eats rather the NPC, that's not as broad a scope as what you can have with a doppelganger who's just imitating somebody who might walk through the door at any minute. But that's really your call at your table. Interestingly, I played under a DM years ago who took this last paragraph literally. A doppelganger actually forms itself into the likeness of the clothing or equipment of the imitated creature as well as the physical features thereof. He, the DM, made this that it could duplicate a fighter who had magical plate armor and a magical sword. And his ruling at his table was that the doppelganger then took on the magical traits he was duplicating. I didn't agree with that, and it says it forms into the being, clothing, and equipment of the imitated forms into the likeness of the clothing and equipment. I took it that it doesn't have an ability to kind of duplicate magic or anything like that, but it was that DM's table. We were playing in the game. We had ourselves a formidable fight against the doppelganger that was now wearing magical plate and had a magical sword. That same DM in a game about a year later kind of got a little squirrely with it and had the doppelganger having consumed a small dragon. So the doppelganger was actually the dragon with the ability to breathe fire and fly and all that. Interesting, this DM really liked the doppelganger. And again, his table, his rules. And I thought it was an interesting interpretation. Never one I agreed with, nor one I've used at my table, but I could absolutely see where he's coming from with it. But that's all I've got to say on the doppelganger. I'll be back tomorrow, or maybe my doppelganger will be back. Who knows? And I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed what you heard and saw. If you did, please like and subscribe. Let's keep the channel growing. Take a look at the Patreon. Help me out there. And I'll see you next time on page 121.